Namaha Om Namah Shivaya Om Griya Babaji Namo 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 Namaste. This body is going to talk about Babaji's promise of moksha and the practice of Manasa Yoga Sadhana. We're also going to talk about some of this information that was in the first video on Babaji's Manasa Yoga, because it wasn't very clear in the beginning. This body wasn't talking very loud in the beginning, and the information itself wasn't very clear. So beginning with yoga. Yoga is an ultimate unity. All of consciousness is brought to rest in this unity, so there are no modifications or angles of view in opposition of each other. So the divisions of yoga, when they say there's Ashtanga Yoga, or here's Kriya Yoga, here's Manasa Yoga, it's often more in relation to what type of sadhana is going to be utilized to drive towards the experience of yoga. Because all of yoga is one. Yoga is a huge, broad field of awareness, all-pervasive awareness. So, Babaji, Maha Avatar Babaji, Maha Munindra Babaji is working on many, many levels and distributing his teachings and his guidance then through many different ways, lineages, influences, from behind the scenes, secretly even. So Mahendra Baba had written in his book that Babaji had divided these teachings into two different predilections or ways of approaching the sadhana, where through Lahiri Mahasaya it was specifically in regards to sadhana to, you would learn to master the prana. And through mastering the prana, this Kundalini Kriya Pranayam, then you could forge a light body that was almost immortal, like it would last hundreds of years or thousands of years. And this could be done in a way where the physical body could actually go backwards in age and then turn to light, or maintain an image of a physical body out of light for an indefinite period of time on earth. Or, as was demonstrated by Lahiri Mahasaya and Sri Yukteswarji, when they returned or resurrected their bodies after it had appeared that they had physically died or they had physically passed from their bodies, they resurrected in a form that their students could touch physically. So they had already forged the light body in their meditation and their pranayam in a way that they could continue, even though it appeared the physical body was gone. They could still manifest physically. They had already completed the forging of the light body. This is another way it could be completed, though it can be done in the physical body to the point that it goes backwards in age and the body actually turns to light, which has been demonstrated by various Siddhas, and the writings have even been left by Ramalinga Swami in relation to the whole process. So then Babaji's Manasa Yoga is in relation to the sadhanas of the mind, of specific contemplation and concentration techniques of bringing the mind back to rest in supreme enlightenment itself. Now, the way then that Babaji is working through these different lineages, he puts a special gem then in each one. So also through a lineage in South India, Babaji's Kriya Yoga order of Acharyas, he has given the sadhanas in the spirit of reviving the Siddha tradition on all the different levels, essentially. There are the asanas and postures for the physical body and the health of the physical body, and the bodies that are most closely associated with the gross physical body, such as the nadis, the meridians, the chakras, and then the kundalini pranayam for the prana, and then the meditation techniques. But because he put a special gem in each one, then there's a special thing through this manifestation of Haidakhan Baba and the Manasa Yoga. Now this body is never seen in the writings about what Haidakhan Baba said in the last public manifestation, that he himself ever said anything about, that he was giving the teachings of Manasa Yoga. But it was Mahendra Baba who wrote in his book, Blessings and Precepts, that this is what he was giving. And so one of the fundamentals to this, and to how he's giving it through Haidakhan and the Leelas there, and the gem of the place then, of this manifestation and this teaching, is the promise of moksha. So that in the practice of Manasa Yoga Sadhana, it's the realization that the absolute truth is already that. God is already that perfection. That the supreme self, the supreme nature of the self, which is the true nature of the self, is already that perfection of moksha, of ultimate freedom. And so the promise of moksha is to help us facilitate this. And it was given like this in a way that Babaji didn't even necessarily say this is Manasa Yoga, but in the bringing the realization to this, just realizing fully what this is, the gift of the promise of moksha, which he said that anyone who even hears of the place, anyone who goes there, anyone who dreams of the place, anyone who watches this video will have moksha. So, in centering consciousness and awareness in that promise of moksha, that would be Manasa Yoga. Then the mind is brought to yoga, to the realization of the supreme truth, of the enlightenment of the self. And so this is the special facet, the special gem of the Haidakhan Baba manifestation in this Manasa Yoga and this promise of moksha. That there's a guarantee now by Babaji's power that we will have moksha. And we know that this is the absolute nature of the self. We know that then any of the other experiences, anything else that's going through mind, is actually relative in comparison to that absolute reality, or that absolute truth of moksha and the perfection of the self, or the supreme form of enlightenment. So in Manasa Yoga then, it's the practice of bringing it back again and again to that centered awareness, to that awareness of enlightenment, to that supreme truth, and just discarding the relativities. In the last video, this body used the word renunciation. Maybe that's a scary word for some people, but as we explained, it's in regards to an inner teaching. It doesn't mean putting on robes or leaving home. It means letting the mind be able to let go of those modifications and focus on the truth of moksha, on that promise of moksha, on the absolute truth of the self, and just let go of the relatives. Another word that could be used is sacrifice, or yajna, which the fire, Agni, represents, and the whole outer fire ceremony is an outer representation of this inner teaching. And the fire of knowledge is this true Agni of the fire of sacrifice. And in the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, it says that the Manasa Yagna is the highest yagna, the yagna that's done internally in meditation, and that is the one that results in moksha. So as a practice for Manasa Yoga then, we can utilize this as a visualization, as the fire of knowledge, and then bring everything else into that fire of knowledge. And this fire of knowledge is the light of wisdom, it's the light of awareness, it's the light of supreme enlightenment itself. And so we just gather everything and center it back into that knowledge, into that light of awareness, into that light of love, into that light of empowerment and bliss. And that would be a practice of Manasa Yoga. And remembering then that this is representing the absolute reality of that we are already enlightened, and just that if there's anything else that's coming up in awareness and mind, if there's worries, if there's some sort of appearance of distraction, an idea of anything else other than this inherent perfection, this absolute truth of enlightenment, of moksha, of Babaji's grace and his promise of moksha to us, then we just put that into the light of knowledge, into the fire of knowledge, and send ourselves back into that absolute reality of knowledge. So in the periods of time, it may appear sometimes that that we're limited, or that we're missing something, or that we are going somewhere with our sadhana, that we're working from point A to point B. But in absolute reality, we're already there. That's the stainless perfection, the stainless truth. So Manasa Yoga is just remembering that we are that. That is the truth of the self, and bringing awareness back to that. Karma Yoga is, action in yoga. Because the Babaji is given the promise of moksha, there can only be Karma Yoga, because really we shouldn't have this idea of working towards anywhere with our action, because it's already been given with the promise of moksha. But it's also like the integration into the human world, because the Babaji is given this promise of moksha. If we maintain that awareness in whatever we're doing, then it becomes Karma Yoga. And whatever we're doing becomes a beautiful offering to that. It becomes a beautiful service to that, and a reflection of that. It becomes a part of that wholeness and that truth of the absolute reality. So, Karma Yoga is action, like putting this into action, knowing that we have the promise of moksha. Let's integrate it. Let's be divine beings here on earth. Let's make this earth into a divine realm. Let's see what we can do with this amazing gift that Babaji has given us, with just this promise of moksha. It's so simple that it could just be brought back to that again and again. The promise of moksha, the promise of moksha, Babaji's promise of moksha, Babaji's promised moksha. Om Namah Shivaya. Bodhi Baba ki jai, Jai Mahamaya Jagadambe Mata ki jai. Om Kriya Babaji Nama Om. Sarvasaktimaya Namaga Om Deva Devi Swarupaya Namaga Om Jum 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 Durgaya Namaga Om Sarvasatguru Sakti Padvarupinya